Let's turn our attention to the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship 32-29. A lot closer game, this one, Johnny. They sort of kept head and head for most of the game. The Chiefs were... I mean, the Chiefs were the Chiefs at times, and the Bills were the Bills at times. I'm going to say that I am disappointed. I think a lot of fans are disappointed because I think not just that there is a general sort of Chiefs consensus hatred or that no one wants them to three-peat, as they may well do in New Orleans, but the fact that Josh Allen, who's in the MVP race still for this season, and for the Bills, who are a team who have been really wonderful for the last 5 years and still not been able to achieve the Super Bowl and get there. I mean, it must be tough on the fans because they feel like they're in the race every year. And, unfortunately, after this game, there's going to be the narratives of, Josh Allen, the Bills, they just can't quite do it. They just can't quite do it against Mahomes. They're never going to be able to do it against Mahomes in the AFC. What was your aspect of this game?
I think it was a blueprint Bills-Chiefs game, wasn't it, that we've seen in the postseason from the last, 5-6 years. The Bills had opportunities to win this game, and what was frustrating, I think, at the start, where there didn't seem to be much of a game plan in the first couple of possessions from Buffalo. Josh almost threw, I think, 3 interceptions in his first five throws, and the Chiefs were able to go on and build a bit of a lead, but as the game went on, the Bills showed why they, in many eyes, were favourites for this game. James Cook has been absolutely insane. It's had an awesome game today. They've got pieces everywhere, but the juggernaut that the Chiefs is, they couldn't handle the intensity of Spagnuolo's blitz. Couldn't get players like Shakir into the game, and I think those sort of fine margins, coaching decisions, where the rulings on the field should have stood. I think ultimately it comes down to the fact that the Chiefs, I think, deserve to win the game because they are the better team. They're better run. They have the better quarterback. They have the better offense, defense, which is a shame because I was even though they are a divisional rival to me, I was rooting for the Bills because I think consensus-wise, we want to see Josh Allen succeed because he is, certainly one of my favourite players to watch, and they can't seem to get over the hurdle. And it's difficult to judge what needs to change. I was listening to a podcast on the Tube just earlier about and the Bills fans were calling for McDermott to be sacked. They felt that the decisions to go for the 2 points were in the third quarter and not kick the field goals. If you use your maths, the Bills on that last possession, they could have been level on points in that game. But they're obviously overreactions. I think the Bills have something special still, as a group. I think if we look back, I was thinking about thinking back to the start of this year, the players that they'd lost, they hadn't replaced Stephon Diggs, and there were question marks over the defense. I certainly came into this season with lower expectations of the Bills compared to some of the other AFC contenders. So maybe in looking back at that, has it been a good season? Can you consider this a success for the Bills? I'm not sure, but they just can't seem to get over the hurdle, and I don't know what the answer or the solution is, other than persuading Patrick and Josh Allen to change their teams maybe. But he seems to just be able to get one over the Bills every time, and whether or not it's deserved or not, I think fairly disappointed for the Bills, or at least someone different than the Chiefs. But they are the best team in football, and they showed that clearly last night.
I'm going to say it, and I haven't got the stats for it. I think this is all Josh Allen in the first half. I thought Josh Allen was really, really poor in the first half.
Yeah, he was erratic.
I agree.
And I think that could be that Kansas City's defense was just being that good, But Gareth, I mean, like that's you've got to have two good quarters. You've got to have two good halves. You've got to be clinical. Like if you're going to read that, Jalen Hurts has a lot of criticism about his capabilities as quarterback, but he was clutch yesterday. He was very clutch, and Jane Daniels was clutch as well. Patrick Mahomes, the ultimate bannerman of clutch. Like he is just so good at that. And Allen, I just felt, like Johnny said, straight off the bat, nearly 2 picks straight away. It was almost like the Bills were like, right, we're going to be aggressive from the start. Like we are going, if we're going to beat the Chiefs, we're going to hammer them and we're going to embarrass them. And it was almost like, man, you need to pump the brakes here and do this very methodically if you're going to beat these guys. And I think there was, again, I agree with there's some wrong play calls, there was some wrong times to run, and there was some wrong times to throw. It felt, I don't know, mate, did they beat themselves in a way?
I think there's an element of that because when you look at, I'll give you a classic case of it. If you look at the final drives of kind of like both teams, like the Chiefs look calm, Mahomes looks calm back there, whereas the Bills just looked like they were rattled. They were like, oh my God. It's almost like the moment became too big for them in that point. And I think without that early turnover they got, I thought that there was a real risk of the Chiefs steamrolling them early because there was that drive that obviously the Bills went 3 and out, and then the return drive back, the Chiefs just didn't look like they could be stopped. And then there was obviously they got their points, and then it was just, if it wasn't for that almost like the 2 fumbles, because it was more or less 2, wasn't it, in a row, the exact same play twice where there was a bad snap, you almost felt like the Chiefs could have steamrolled them early. And I would have worried what would have happened in that game if the Chiefs had got a 2-score lead in Arrowhead, in that stadium, with that noise, and particularly with the weight of history on the Chiefs side. And I know some people are going to say the refs as well, but we don't play that game. I just feel they beat themselves as much as there was some questionable calls. But no matter what goes on, there's always going to be a questionable. There's going to be calls you don't agree with. It just seems that they couldn't shake off the ghosts of playoff past.
Yeah, I'd agree. As I say, I brought that to the table. I thought Josh Allen the first half was not that great. I mean, Bills-wise, James, like Johnny said, sort of, I suppose Bill fans, ultimately the goal was to win the Super Bowl, and it has been for the last 2 years, and they failed, and they should see it as a disappointment. It's the failure of the season in some fans' minds. I mean, there was a few years ago, and we said they're not getting enough sacks. They need to get a great pass rusher. This team will go to the Super Bowl with it. Brought in Von Miller, went all the way there, didn't get to it. We went. They're relying on Josh's legs too much. They really need to invest in a running back. Probably get one in. James Cook isn't looking it. James Cook has now gone and hit. He has been fantastic. It was, they need to get a big time wide receiver. They've not got enough talent to watch it. They went and got Stephon Diggs. They brought in all this talent. But when we said year on year, this is the one thing. Went all the way and then got knocked out and didn't make it and haven't won the Super Bowl. You then look at it this year where you went again. You went full. Well, not on Stephon Diggs, okay, the Keon Coleman, but they that's what they're lacking. They're lacking the big time wide receiver. They go and trade for Amari Cooper just near the trade deadline. As a player that, for me, very underrated around the league. Hasn't made a big splash in Buffalo, but was a player that I think has been quite nice and fitting for Buffalo. I mean, what do they need to do? They've answered the question every time. What's the question this season?
I don't know. I think you need to send a priest or a shaman or all the above up to Buffalo and just get some voodoo out of there or something, because there's just some bad karma or something in there that just, I don't know, man. I don't know what it is, because like you say, we have questions every off season and they do seem to address them for the most part. I do think they've not got enough pass rush, and I think that's been a telling thing all season. At the trade deadline, I was surprised they didn't make extra moves there to try and enhance, like you say, Von Miller hasn't quite been it since he's got there, but obviously he went there on a big contract and was, knocking on in years. It's just tough, isn't it? Because I don't know. And I hear the things about Sean McDermott and everything else, and he gets them this far, but he doesn't get them any further. And so do they maybe need a change, or is this just that going to Arrowhead is just so difficult? There are a couple of contentious calls. The Worthy catch that I don't think really upon replay, I don't know how they got called a catch. Really, that ball hits the ground and it's never really in his control. The one with Josh Allen, on the scramble where it gets overturned, the turnover on downs. It's these little things that that are not in their control that sometimes turn the tide of these games. And so how do you overcome that? I mean, you can't really. There's nothing you can do there. They came out with this very aggressive game plan, and I think that was because when they played each other earlier in the season, that is what worked for them in Buffalo. They were really aggressive from the get-go, and it really seemed to rattle the Chiefs, and they just kept the pressure on, and it paid off, and they won that game up there in the regular season. That just didn't work today. And I mean, the other thing that I can't get my head around as well is, how is Steve Spagnuolo still the defensive coordinator at the Chiefs? Every good defensive coordinator that comes along, you look at Aaron Glenn this time, had a couple of good seasons in Detroit, he goes and gets himself a head coaching job. Steve Spagnuolo, he never even seems to really get talked about. He got a couple of mentions this time around, but he's just there all the time. Like, what have they got over him that means he can't go anywhere? They've got to have something, because he should, by NFL logic, that man should be a head coach somewhere else right now, but he isn't. And I think I don't know who it was today. I saw a quote from the end of the game. As long as we've got Spagnuolo, we've got a chance every time in these games, because he just knows how to dial up. And I think what had Josh Allen rattled was a lot of pressure early doors that he's just not used to facing, and it forced mistakes, and it forced him to look like the sort of rookie Josh Allen, very scattershot, sporadic throws, kind of silly mistakes that he hasn't been making in the regular season. It's just, I don't know what Buffalo can do, short of trying to, I don't know, maybe pay Spagnuolo and get him in as your head coach or something, or I don't know, some kind of crazy move that they need to make to be able to turn the tide. I don't know if getting rid of McDermott is the answer, but I don't know what the answer is. It feels like they're just, like, they are there. They're not a bad team. They are a good team, and in some ways they're better than Kansas City. But in the ways that matter, and at the moments that matter, they make mistakes and, like you say, sort of beat themselves. And it feels like it's the pressure until they win this game and they can sort of get rid of this voodoo curse that seems to be over them, that it's never going to change. And I don't know, there's a little bit of Chiefs frustration in there as well from my side, I think, because I just can't get over it. It's every time, every year. Oh my God. But it's frustration for the Bills as well, because they are good enough. They show it in a regular season when they win these games against the Chiefs and whoever else it might be. They are good enough. But in the big moments, they can't calm themselves, ground themselves, and make the right calls and make the right decisions, convert at the right times. So I don't know. It's really difficult. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they play to their experience. And like we said about the Eagles, they look like the team that's been in this situation so many times before. Like, they know what to do. They just wait for the playoffs, man. Like we said, they were really boring all year, and they're just to put the playoff Chiefs
all season that they do not look good. They are playing for January. I mean, we said it about Travis Kelce. What was Travis Kelce's stat line in this game? I
think it was much.
19 yards. I mean, he's definitely in the Super Bowl going to go for like 6 receptions, 100 yards. We know this, or even against the Eagles. It might not be a winning Chiefs team, but he's going to have a big stat like that. I mean, Kareem, what's going on with Isaiah Pacheco, by the way?
Yeah, Kareem Hunt's so much better than Pacheco, isn't he? It's, the absolute rebirth of Kareem Hunt. It's quite out of nowhere, really. But they have players. I don't know what it is about the culture of Kansas City. Obviously, they have, I think, the best quarterback, you would say, in terms of consistency. I think obviously he's won X amount of rings so far, but
he's the second best quarterback of all time at this point.
Yeah, at this point, and compare him to obviously Brady, and compare the Chiefs to the Patriots or the 70 Steelers or whoever. The thing that they've got is time. They haven't got there yet. But they have so much time to emulate themselves as the best franchise or the best dynasty of all time. Which I suppose at the moment, for fans across the league is who are non-Chiefs fans and want someone else to go is quite annoying. But we are literally witnessing something I don't think we've ever seen before. And I think it starts with culture. I don't know what they have for breakfast in Kansas City, but they are just such a winning franchise, and I don't know what teams do to but I think that I just don't have the answer to beating the Chiefs, unfortunately, which is frustrating.
Well, the Eagles may do, and we know what they have for breakfast. Andy Reid has hamburgers, and there's some of the best barbecue in the world in Kansas City. James,